James McCready had always been a bargain hunter, but even by his standards, purchasing an entire orbital station for the price of a decent starship seemed too good to be true. The Zephyrian merchant had been suspiciously eager to close the deal, practically shoving the ownership papers into James's hands before disappearing into the crowded marketplace of New Kepler Station. "You sure about this, James?" Naz Rahman asked, as their shuttle approached the massive structure floating in the asteroid belt. Her dark eyes reflected concern as she studied the readouts. "The energy signatures are unusual." James grinned, his weathered face creasing with excitement. "Come on, Naz. When has my gut ever steered us wrong?" "Do you want the chronological list or just the highlights?" she replied dryly, but there was affection in her voice. They'd been partners in the salvage business for 5 years, and she'd learned to trust his instincts even when they seemed insane. The station was a marvel of Zephyrian architecture, crystalline spires twisted through metallic frameworks, creating something that looked more grown than built. As they docked, James couldn't shake the feeling that the station was watching them, though he dismissed it as new owner jitters. The first 2 days were spent exploring and cataloging. The station was immaculate, its systems running smoothly despite being supposedly abandoned. The artificial gravity worked perfectly, the air recyclers hummed quietly, and the hydroponic gardens were flourishing. It was like finding a luxury mansion with the key still in the ignition. "This is incredible," Naz said on the second evening as they sat in what appeared to be an observation lounge. Through the transparent aluminum walls, stars wheeled slowly around them. "The quantum processing cores alone are worth 10 times what you paid." James nodded, but something nagged at him. The station felt too perfect, too convenient. Every human instinct he'd developed over 40 years of space trading was screaming that something wasn't right. On the third morning, while Naz ran diagnostics on the main computer core, James decided to thoroughly explore the living quarters. The master suite was palatial by space station standards, with a bed that could have accommodated a small shuttlecraft and storage units built into the walls. It was while searching for additional storage that he noticed it, a drawer that seemed slightly different from the others. Where the other storage panels had smooth, seamless surfaces, this one had what looked like tiny scratches around the edges, as if someone had tried very hard to keep it closed. James's fingers found the release mechanism, and the drawer slid, open with a soft hiss. Inside was a single crystal tablet no larger than his palm, covered in Zephyrian script that seemed to shift and writhe when he looked at it directly. But it wasn't the alien writing that made his blood run cold. It was the human words carved crudely below it. "Warning, whoever finds this, the station is alive and it's hungry. It feeds on consciousness. Get out before the 4th day. Captain Sarah Chen, UES Prometheus." James stared at the tablet, his mind racing. Captain Chen, he knew that name. The Prometheus had been a deep space exploration vessel that had disappeared 3 years ago. All hands presumed lost. As if summoned by his thoughts, the station seemed to shiver around him. The lights dimmed momentarily, and he could swear he heard something like breathing in the walls. "Naz," he called into his comm, forcing his voice to remain steady. "We need to talk. Now." She arrived within minutes, taking one look at his face and immediately shifting into crisis mode. "What's wrong?" He showed her the tablet and Chen's warning. Naz read it twice, her face growing paler with each word. "A parasitic station," she whispered. "I've heard rumors. Some of the older traders talk about Zephyrian biotech that went wrong. Stations that became something more than their builders intended." As if responding to their conversation, the lights around them began to pulse in a rhythm that felt uncomfortably like a heartbeat. The walls themselves seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting slightly. "We need to leave," Naz said, "now." But as they rushed toward the docking bay, they found their shuttle encased in what looked like crystalline webbing, the same material that made up the station's superstructure. "It doesn't want us to leave," James said grimly. "Not until it's finished feeding." That's when Naz smiled, a sharp, dangerous expression that James had learned to both fear and admire. "Then we don't give it a choice." She pulled out her multi-tool and began working on the docking bay's main power coupling. If this station is alive, it needs energy to maintain its systems. Cut the power. Cut its ability to hold us. That'll also cut life support, James pointed out. We've got 40 minutes of air in our suits, more than enough time to get clear and contact the authorities. As Nas worked, James felt the station's growing agitation. The walls pulsed faster, and he could swear he heard whispers in languages he didn't recognize, possibly the voices of previous victims. "Got it!" Nas shouted as sparks flew from the power coupling. The lights died instantly, and the crystalline webbing around their shuttle began to dissolve. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in an eerie red glow. The station's breathing became labored, desperate. They sprinted for the shuttle, James sealing the hatch behind them as Nas fired up the engines. As they pulled away from the dying station, James watched it convulse in their rear viewer, its crystalline spires cracking and breaking apart. "Think it's dead?" Nas asked. James considered this as they watched the station's death throes. "Maybe. But even if it isn't, we'll make sure nobody else falls into this trap." 3 hours later, they transmitted a warning beacon to the Galactic Safety Commission, ensuring that the station's coordinates would be marked as a hazard zone. James had lost his bargain purchase, but he'd gained something more valuable. Another story of human ingenuity triumphing over alien threats. "So," Nas said as they set course for the nearest inhabited system, "learned your lesson about deals that are too good to be true?" James grinned. "Absolutely. Next time I'm checking the drawers on day 1. Behind them, the cursed station drifted silent and dark, its hunger finally stilled by human determination and quick thinking.